Hello and welcome back to Small Talk. We've got a great episode ahead as we chat with a pair from St. John Fisher. I'm your host, Katie Mushi. Each week on this show, we highlight the past and present of Division III, with both current and former student athletes joining to talk about their experiences, their favorite on-campus spots, the craziest road trip stories, and more. This week, we're chatting with Emma Kane, a current member of the rowing team, alongside former student athlete Savannah Elliott. The two talk about their favorite memories with the team, why it's important to always pack uncrustables, the reason they chose Division III, and more. Thanks for joining this week. Now it's time for some small talk.
Hi, my name is Emma Kane, and I am a current student and rower at St. John Fisher University.
Hello, everyone. My name is Savannah Elliott. I was a rower at St. John Fisher from 2016 to 2020. I am currently an occupational therapist in Buffalo, New York. I'm excited to be here.
Well, thank you to you both for joining me today. I know you are in the middle of your season, Emma. Hopefully you can compete again soon. I know we talked earlier about all the rain and weather that has made it a little bit hard for you to get out there, but thanks for being here in the middle of your season. And Savannah, thank you for being here when I know you are a very busy woman out in the career world. The first thing we'll chat about today is on-campus life. So Emma, I'll have you start this one out, but we want to hear about what on-campus life is like right now for you and your teammates. What are some of those spots you guys all hang out together? Are there any favorite local coffee shops, restaurants, things like that? And then Savannah, I know you are only 4 years removed, so it probably hasn't changed too much, but you can follow up and let us know if anything is different.
Sure. So I have been living off campus for just this year. So my freshman and sophomore year, I lived on campus. But when I am on campus for classes, my team and I like to hang out in the commons area. It's the TIPA's commons that were renovated last year. So they're a great place to hang out. There's an outdoor fire pit, which we really like to go to. And then there's always Cyber Cafe, which sponsors Starbucks coffee drinks and other foods. So we hang out there or really just the dining hall. We try and find any location on campus that we can just all be together. And then in terms of things to do out in the Rochester community, I live close by to Pittsford Dairy. So that's like hands down, definitely a place that I go to often with not only like my teammates, but my roommates and friends. And Village Bakery is also a really good one. They've got good sandwiches and bakery items. And it's a good location to go to school, and it's a good location to start my career and continue rowing.
All right. So yeah, I wasn't at Fisher when the Commons were there, so it was really cool to hear about that from Emma. Wish I was there, but when I was there, a lot of things that we like to do on campus included going to fishbowl, especially late nights. Not too late though, because we had to be up early in the morning for rowing. But it was really cool to have a place like that on campus to go get late night food, and then during the day, if we wanted to go get sandwiches and stuff from the other little cafe there. Um, in addition to that, I would say it was really cool to hang out at it's is it called Cardinal now, or is it Cyber? I can't remember the name of it. It's been so long. But I know when I was there towards the end of my time there, they brought in brand new seating and stuff down at the little like sunken in seating area, which was really cool. I hung out there a lot with friends and study time, so that was really nice there. And I'm actually from Rochester, so I'm pretty familiar with a lot of off-campus stuff going on. I really love Giant's Restaurant over on Park Ave, along with Blue Wolf. That's an amazing restaurant cafe. And you gotta love Nick Tahoe's, the original home of the garbage plate, which is a Rochester staple. So, of course, anyone going to St. John Fisher has to have at least one garbage plate in their life before leaving, if they end up leaving Rochester after St. John Fisher, for sure.
I was in Rochester for the outdoor track and field championships that St. John Fisher hosted last May. And so I did the track and field committee got Pittsford Dairy every single day they were there. So big fans of that. I didn't get to partake. I'm not a dairy person, but heard great things about it too. And Rochester is just a very fun place, especially the St. John Fisher campus. We were there. So excited to hear about that. So now let's talk on the road. So traveling, you obviously have a unique travel situation from like a team sport where your equipment is a ball and maybe some pads. You guys have entire boats to bring. Is that, I'm not a rower, so you can tell me if I sound totally silly. But how do you guys, what's the travel situation? Like, I know you probably stick somewhat in the Northeast. I think that's probably pretty normal, but I know, Emma, you talked about, maybe getting to Ohio, which is a bit farther. So what is the travel situation like? Emma, you can talk to about that first.
Sure. So when we know we're going far and we need to bring our boats with us, we usually take a day or some time out of our practice routine right before we leave and we de-rig, which basically just means taking off the equipment or the riggers that keep the oars in place in the boat. So we take them off and it's quite simple and easy. We just use wrenches and we take off the nuts and bolts. That's basically it. And then we load our boats and our oars onto a trailer and we strap them down tight so they don't go flying off on a highway. We've heard way too many horror stories about that with other teams. So then we have our coaches drive the trailer with a truck to the destination. And another one of our coaches, typically our assistant coach, will come on a charter bus with us and travel. So for this weekend, we're traveling to Ohio. And tomorrow, the plan is to go to practice and de-rig, which again is just take off all the equipment from the boats and get the oars ready and get the regatta box ready with extra parts and tools and straps in case we lose anything or misplace anything. And we're going to load the trailer tomorrow. And then Friday will kind of be like a rest and recovery day because it's going to be a long travel day. And then our coach will leave Friday with the trailer and the boats and everything. And our assistant coach will join us on the bus. So it's a normal process for us, but to a lot of other teams, it's quite different that we don't bring our equipment with us on the bus. The only thing we bring are just our unis that we wear and any extra layers because we tend to get a little splashed in the boat. But other than that, we're able to take time out of our practice and get set up for races and get all the equipment ready and together ahead of time. And then we're able to just focus on traveling and focus on being together and getting in the mindset of racing.
Awesome. And Savannah, so we now know how you travel. I feel fully educated now. So Savannah, for you, we'll just go into your trips and everything. So what are some maybe favorite trips you got to take with the team, favorite events you got to go to?
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to, within my 4 years of rowing at St. John Fisher, I was able to get two bids to head of the Charles, which is one of the biggest regattas or races, as we call it. One of the biggest races in the world. We have teams from all over the world coming in and racing here, and you get a random bid to race. And I was lucky enough to go twice out of my 4 years. And that is in Boston, Massachusetts, every year. But the fact that I was able to go twice was a huge accomplishment for our team, and I was really proud of that. And I would say going down to Boston those 2 years was an incredible experience. I'll never forget rowing on our like practice warm up along the racetrack and rowing by the American women's national team. And these women are insanely talented. So being able to experience that with my teammates was wonderful. Loved Boston, and in between races, we were able to explore the campus around where the head of the Charles is. So they have tents everywhere, different vendors. We got to hold gold medals from the Olympic team, which was really cool. Such a great experience, I would say. That was definitely one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, I know, Emma, we were talking earlier and you said you got to do that. Was that this year as well?
I actually was fortunate enough to get two bids as well. So it was my junior year was this year and then my freshman year as well.
And a similar experience for you. Everything was amazing.
Yeah, it was honestly like it's one of those things where it's like a once in a lifetime opportunity. And both Savannah and I were fortunate enough to get to do it twice. So going for my freshman year was like a whole new experience. I never got that chance in high school. So it was awesome to see it for the first time, get to experience it for the first time ever. And then I was the only returner for this year. So it was awesome getting to see it through my teammates' eyes who've never been. And a lot of them are new to the sport in college. So it was awesome getting to see their experience through their eyes and seeing it for the first time ever and then getting to relive that same feeling. And just like Savannah said, it was awesome to get to be on the water at the same time as literally Olympians. So it's definitely like an intimidating and overwhelming experience, but in the best possible way.
Very cool. Now let's talk a little bit about academics. So Emma, you are currently in school. What is your major right now?
I'm a nursing major with a psychology minor.
Okay. And Savannah, what was your major when you were in?
I was a biology major with a psychology minor.
Okay, so maybe some overlap there with your classes, especially only being a few years apart. Um, Emma, now that since you're in the thick of it, what has been your favorite class, favorite professor?
I have to say the professor I currently have for my med surg and pathopharmacology class or classes has been Dr. Deborah Hurley. I really like her, and she's given me a lot of support throughout the semester with maintaining my grades as well as keeping up with rowing and making sure that I'm able to multitask all of my responsibilities and priorities and keep my head above water and do well in class. So I've really appreciated her help as a professor and as a mentor. Um, I really loved my OB class, which is basically labor and delivery. And I love babies. So getting to learn all the ins and outs of labor and getting to hold babies at clinical this spring has been just amazing and honestly so therapeutic. But I've appreciated and enjoyed all of my classes so far.
That's awesome. And when you were going to school, was it nursing from the start, or was that something you decided while you've been in college?
Yeah, it was from the start. Nursing has always had my heart. I've wanted to be a nurse since I was very little. Definitely wanted to be in the healthcare field, and I wanted that patient to nurse relationship and to build those relationships as opposed to just focusing on diagnosis and treatment and not getting to know the person past their chief complaint or problem.
That's awesome. And Savannah, so biology major, psychology minor, did I get that right?
Yes, that's correct.
So when you were once say I guess same question for you first, did you know you wanted to go into sort of a medical field, STEM field, or was that kind of a thing you decided while you were in school?
So I always knew that I wanted to go into healthcare. I just wasn't sure at the time. So when I applied to Fisher, I actually applied for the nursing program and I got accepted into nursing as a freshman. And I went through my first year in the nursing program or through nursing prerequisite courses. And, through trial and error, I found that it wasn't the correct path for me. So what I did was starting sophomore year, I switched over to biology, still with no direct path yet. I didn't find out until actually junior year of undergrad that I really wanted to pursue occupational therapy. So I was taking biology classes from sophomore year through senior year with the psychology minor, which I actually had most of my classes covered for the minor through my nursing courses in the freshman year. So it was a really easy transition in the psych minor. And I knew that having a psychology background with biology was really going to set me up well for occupational therapy since it encompasses so much between medical complexities and psychology. I thought it was a really good fit for me and would set me up well, which it definitely did going into my graduate degree.
So now we are going to get to some story time. So the first thing I'll have you both share is your funniest or craziest but appropriate story from your time with the team. Savannah, I'll have you start this one, and then Emma, you can follow up.
All right. So I would say funniest slash craziest story. It sounds a little lame, but I remember during one of our spring break, I'll call it a retreat. We were on campus for that spring break, and I remember we were doing triple sessions each day. We would have one in the morning, have a few hour break, go into the afternoon, then do another break, and then third session of the day. And by like the third or fourth day, we were all exhausted. So I remember we went to coach's house for a little brunch, all of us together. And we ended up all falling asleep on his floor in front of the fireplace. And we were all just knocked out, so tired. I think he has a picture of it. And Coach Monica had one as well. I don't know if Monica's still there or not. But it was such a really bonding experience because I knew we were all in the same boat, no pun intended. But it was really funny to look back at that picture. I was looking through my phone the other day and I saw it. And I was like, you know what? We were all in the same boat. We were all so tired, but we were all there working so hard towards the same goal of improving ourselves for the best season we could have.
Mine isn't really going to make a lot of sense, but this started last year in the spring when kind of like the atmosphere of our team changed. We had a lot of great people join the team who just added to the environment, and we just had a really amazing dynamic. So we oftentimes go with our coach to Wegmans before we leave for a regatta, and we get snacks for the bus and for everyone to eat like breakfast things in the morning if we don't have time to go to the hotel or stay at the hotel in the morning and eat breakfast. So we'll buy things. And last year, a few of the girls or my teammates went to Wegmans with him and got uncrustables, which are just like the peanut butter and jelly already in the bread and everything. And they also got like a chocolate hazelnut filling for the uncrustables, kind of like a Nutella situation. And now we can't go without them every time we travel, to the point that we went to Wegmans one time to get the uncrustables specifically, and they were all out. And the next morning, my coach did not tell anyone until he got on the bus. And he was like, oh, yeah, by the way, there were no Uncrustables. And the atmosphere and the mood changed so quickly. There were so many girls mad and like freaking out that we didn't have Uncrustables. A lot of them like now thought that it was like they were very superstitious. They're like, oh, now that we don't have Uncrustables, we're not going to do well. So Uncrustables are now a favorite and a necessity for when we travel.
Those superstitions are serious. How did you guys
Yeah.
do after your day without the Uncrustables? Did you guys still do pretty well or?
From what I can remember, we did okay. We held our own. We
Okay,
figured
good,
it out.
good, good. Glad the Uncrustables didn't bring you down. Now let's talk about favorite memories. So just something that you look back at. I know you guys both talked about your trip to Boston, but let's look back at just some favorite memories and during your time with the program. And Emma, you can start. Savannah, follow up.
Okay, so I definitely think one of like the best moments and the best times are really spent together on our spring break trip when we go to Sarasota, Florida. We go to Nathan Benderson Park, which is a man-made body of water used specifically for rowing. So a lot of like championships have been held there. A lot of US rowing related events have been held there. And it's just a great facility to practice racing. And actually, when we went this past spring break, the beginning of March, they were doing the Olympic trials for Paris 2024. So we were on the water at the same time as all of these people trying to qualify for the Olympics, which was such an intimidating event to be a part of, but so cool to just like see them row past us with like they're just like jacked with muscles, and they don't look like they're breaking any sweat just by rowing, and it was incredible to watch. But that trip alone definitely strengthens the relationships on the team, and we get a lot closer by going on our spring break trip. And there are just so many memories made that we come back and we have like all of these jokes, and we always can look back on these memories and be like, oh, remember when so and so did this or so and so did that. um and the atmosphere definitely changes from uh, a bunch of new people just joining a team because they miss being athletic from high school, or they need a social outlet or just an outlet in general to work out. So we went from like that sort of atmosphere to a family atmosphere, and it was great to see that transition made this year as well.
And I would definitely have to say that as a whole, the trips to the regattas and the weekends spent together were so special and so memorable because in between races, you just have to goof around and kill time. But I just remember one of our teammates would bring bubbles to every single regatta and she would just blow bubbles everywhere. And she would really bring up the mood. Like if people were not feeling well or if the weather was crappy, because it typically is in the spring and fall seasons, you can have rain, snow, really cold weather, but when there's bubbles flowing by, you can't be upset. And just the memories that you make, the inside jokes you create, the bonding that occurs, especially during every regatta weekend, is so memorable. And going back to what Emma was saying earlier about the rigging days, I really loved those practices because it really gave us a chance to work together. You know, you had to work on your communication skills, you work on your teamwork skills with de-rigging those boats and being efficient. But it was really fun to do those little race pieces in the beginning of the practice, and then you just go into rigging the boats, really getting you pumped up for the weekend. So I'd have to say definitely every weekend regatta was so memorable, just the little moments together.
Yeah, that's been a common theme when I ask that question is it's usually not some big major event. It's usually just the day-to-day with your teammates. So we will start to wrap it up a little bit. And first, I want to talk about what it means to you to be or to have been a Division III student athlete. And maybe that means great academics at St. John Fisher. Maybe it means you get to be involved in other things around campus or have a very difficult major like a nursing would be. So what does your D3 experience mean to you? And Emma, you can start.
So I knew before coming into college that I did not want to give up rowing yet. It was not a chapter I wanted to close in my life, and I started looking for schools that had D3 because I wanted that kind of work-life balance in terms of balancing athletics with school. I knew my goal in life was to be a nurse and not to be a world-class rower, but I wasn't ready to close that part out of my life just yet. So I found St. John Fisher and they had a D3 program, and I reached out to Coach John Coveney. And I remember right before COVID coming and meeting him, and at the time, the assistant coach, Monica, and I had lunch with the team and I got to meet them and we got to go over all the ins and outs of the season and like what the team atmosphere was and what practices would look like and all the ins and outs of that. And I fell in love with the ability that rowers or just athletes had in general to balance school with sports and take on other things. So among being a rower and a student, I'm also a scholar. So I have a scholarship through school that I have to do service, volunteering every year for a certain number of hours. I also run a program within the scholarship program that I'm in, and I'm a part of a couple other clubs as well. And I have been throughout my 3 years so far at Fisher. So definitely the balance has been um, something that has kept me going. And I really appreciate the communication that I've been able to have with my coaches and balancing everything that I need to balance, all of the responsibilities I have, and all the desires that I want um, to do, and all the things I want to accomplish while I'm in school, and just maintaining that flexibility and balance throughout everything.
Yeah, I definitely want to touch on a lot of the things that Emma just said as well. When I came to Fisher, I had been already rowing for 2 years in high school, and similar to Emma, I did not want to give it up yet. I was excited to try rowing at a different level. My high school level was very intense, and I knew a Division III school would be a good balance between school, but also it wasn't at the same level I was used to in high school. It was a little bit more laid back, but still very rigorous in its own ways. And when I became a student athlete, it was hard at first to balance rowing in school, especially with our really early wake ups and having to be on the water by 5:30, being at the bus by 5 a.m. You really had discipline. You needed it. And it also required you to be present and accountable to your teammates because, especially with rowing, if one person isn't in that boat, it throws everything off. And if you can't find a replacement, that whole boat doesn't go out on the water. So it's that accountability that really kept me going, um, and kept me within the sport too, especially with the love of it that I have. But being held accountable to teammates definitely was a big part of that as well. And I as well balanced a lot at Fisher. I worked as a work study. I had a work study job all 4 years at Fisher. I was on the student athlete committee. I was a part of the Tri Beta Honor Society for biology. There was a lot keeping me busy. And I think rowing was a really great foundation for me because I liked having rowing in the morning. I got my workout out of the way in the morning. I was with my teammates, but then I had the rest of the day to myself. I could go to my classes, go to my work study job, be a part of those committees that are really important to me. I know a lot of teams on campus also have like mid-afternoon practices, which get in the way of classes or are difficult for them to balance other things. So it was really nice to have rowing in the morning, especially. That way, the rest of my day was to myself and I could kind of formulate the rest of my day. But yeah, I would say going into my professional career, having that accountability mindset, having that teamwork, collaboration mindset really built up the occupational therapist I am today, I would have to say.
That is great. So before I ask my last question, I do know that you, Savannah, have a sister who's at St. John Fisher as a student athlete. And then we learned before we got on here that she's actually Emma's roommate. So I will ask one little question about that. As an older sister who your younger sister has now followed in your footsteps going to St. John Fisher, was there any guidance from you on going there, or is that a full decision she made on her own? And how does it make you feel to have her rep in the same team?
I'm so proud of her. She works extremely hard. She has been on the basketball team at Fisher for the last 3 years. She is currently a junior. She is so determined, so driven, and she is such a team player. I loved getting back to Fisher and seeing a lot of her games and just being the big, proud older sister I am. I see everything that she juggles between all of the clubs she's a part of, being a student athlete, really dedicated to her studies as well. Super proud of her. She definitely made the decision on her own. I, of course, when she was looking at schools, kind of pushed her towards Fisher because it was such an amazing school. But she made that decision all on her own. She is such a driven person. And she definitely, definitely loves Fisher. I've heard her say how much she loves it so many times. And she knows that she made a great choice with the teammates that she's made and the lifelong friends that she's come into since joining Fisher's team.
Okay, my last question for both of you. You're going to have to kind of pull out a crystal ball, do a little bit of looking into the future here. But we are 50 years down in Division III and many more to come. So what do you see, or what do you hope to see maybe for the future of Division III? And Emma, you can go first, and Savannah, close us out.
For the future D3, I hope that it remains as flexible as it is now. I hope the conferences get a little more difficult. Maybe we come up with a few more conferences or um, like have more, maybe lengthen the seasons or just add different places to go so that it's not just within conference. But I think what we're doing right now as a D3 community is allowing athletes to have a life outside of their sports. And I think that's a major complaint that we often hear from D1 and some D2 that their life at school is 100% their sport. And I think we're so lucky here at Fisher that although our sport may be a very big chunk of our life and something that we hold very near and dear to our hearts, it is not our entire life, and we're able to have other identities other than being an athlete. And I value that so much being here at Fisher.
I agree with Emma completely. I think the flexibility of being a Division III athlete was so important. And that was definitely a driving force when I chose to become a D3 athlete. I knew it would be a good balance for me to keep pursuing my professional dreams, but also keeping the sport that I love so much in my life. I would say keeping the conferences or making the conferences more competitive is definitely a great way to improve the NCAA Division III sports. But also, I think having the support of the conferences for mental health awareness, especially with student athletes nowadays, it is very important to maintain proper mental health and get the help you need if you do need it. And I know with balancing a lot going on with being a student athlete, having that mental health awareness and support is huge. And I know my younger sister, Carly, is a big advocate for that. She was on the Athletes to Athletes committee. She founded it. She was a co-founder of it. And I agree with her wholeheartedly. I believe that taking care of your mental health is huge, especially as a student athlete. And I think having more efforts to support student athletes mentally would be a great contribution.
Well, thank you both so much for being here today and joining me. Like I said, I know you're both super busy right now in season or in work. So I appreciate you hopping on here today.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
To everyone listening, thanks for tuning into this episode of Small Talk. We post new episodes every week. To follow along with everything Division III, you can find us on social media at NCAA D3 or NCAA DIII. Make sure to join the conversation with us all year long by using the hashtag DIII50. Have a great day, and we'll see you for some more Small Talk next week.